Hi, this is Mr. Manley. This video is about cofunction identities for trigonometry. It's a kind of interesting video because I think it's virtually new to any student of Precalculus. And also, it's an interesting application where we can make a choice about how to apply this concept. Before we get into that, let's take a look at the cofunction identities. There they are at the bottom of the page. A couple of things about these. One is that we can switch the trigonometric functions and still have a equality that is true. So if I take the first one, I can write that as cosine x is equal to sine of pi over 2 minus x. And I could do that with any of the other functions as well, with the tangent and cotangent. Another thing about this is that I can use degrees, certainly. I'll just do that with the last one that I wrote there and say cosine of x is equal to sine of 90 degrees minus x. And finally, before I go on and take a look at a problem, I'll just make a comment about how this helps makes the naming of the trigonometric functions make sense. Maybe it didn't make sense to you that tangent and cotangent were paired up as reciprocal trigonometric functions, but sine is paired up with cosecant as its reciprocal, and cosine is paired up with secant as its reciprocal. And maybe that seemed kind of odd to you. And why do we have sine not being paired up with cosine? And in that case, it wasn't. Sine wasn't the reciprocal of cosine, but we do see that they do have a relationship. So that helps to make sense of the naming of it, I think. That sine is linked up with cosine. It does have a link with cosine, tangent with cotangent, and secant with cosecant. Now let's go on to the question at hand, which is that if we have cosecant of 3 pi over 8, what cofunction expression is that equivalent to? Just using the formulas, I could just plug in here that it's equal to the sine of pi over 2 minus 3 pi over 8. Of course, I'm just using this for this. I'm just using this equation. And I'm going back in and using radians instead of degrees because I was given an angle in radians, the angle 3 pi over 8. Simple enough. I do need to do pi over 2 minus 3 pi over 8 now. And that's going to require us to get a common denominator, which some students have a little trouble with since maybe you don't do it too regularly. But I'll just set up the fraction here. See that I need a common denominator of 8, so I'll multiply by 4 over 4. And then we'll have 4 pi minus 3 pi is pi over 8. And I have evaluated this expression here, this subtraction here. So we've got our answer that we would be able to key in here, that the cosine of 3 pi over 8 is equal to the sine of pi over 8. So that's that. Just the final thing to think about is that you want to always be aware whether or not you are in degrees or radians.